Oh, hello. My name is Kayla. I guess on YouTube I should start like that in case new people watch this. I don't know, you guys. I don't know what that laugh was. Okay. I'm here because I want to tell a story. I just want to share a G-dang story, if I may. And this story is about Bigfoot. It's about Sasquatch, okay? And it was a really cool freaking experience. It's one of the cooler experiences I've had. And it happened a few weeks ago, and I wanted to share it right when I got back, but time got away from me. And also it's one of those things where I'm like, is this weird to share? But then also I'm like, what are you talking about? This is your G-dang life. You can literally do whatever you want. In what circumstance would it be, based on whose judgment would it be weird? Do you know what I mean? And it's cool, and I think it's worth sharing. So if you're into Bigfoot, if you're into elementals, if you're into Mount Shasta, stick around. That's what this story is about. Now, upon driving to Mount Shasta, we stopped at the lake, like Lake Mount Shasta or whatever it is, and we did some energy work on the space there. Work happened for a while, and then when it was done, we could sense that there was energy trying to, like reciprocal energy trying to occur in the form of like gratitude. And I've talked about this before, if you know me. I sometimes have a hard time allowing my heart to receive. And obviously when we're in this time period like we are now, where we're rapidly trying to shed what is not us in order to like stand firmly in what is us, that was getting worse. And so I noticed I was like, I can't feel the energy you're trying to send in to me. And this is just kind of talking to the elements, the spirits of the land, whatever. And I was trying and I was was like, damn it, feel something, Kayla. But they were just like, don't worry, you're here for like a few more days. We'll help you like clear that or open that or whatever it may be. And I was like, okay. So then later that night, or throughout that day, people were talking about Bigfoot. And I was like, oh, is Mount Shasta a place where Bigfoot is? Sasquatchy. I'm not super familiar. All I kind of knew about them was that they are known as like, sorry, just for a moment was like, who will be watching this? And whatever, dude. They're known as like guardians of, protectors of the forest, right? And the other thing I know about them is that they're like elementals, right? And that they don't necessarily live in the third dimensional plane. They can move out of physicality in the way we understand it and into, I don't know if it'd be fourth or fifth dimension, whatever. No, really quick. They primarily live in, fourth or fifth dimension, and they can come into physicality, is my understanding. I'm just correcting that. So people were talking about them, and I was like, oh, I'm going to talk to Bigfoot. Like, I'm going to be like, yo, what's up? Just the stories I was hearing. I was like, as soon as we go back to the Airbnb, I'm calling them in. And so we go back, and this Airbnb was up against the woods. It's like literally up against the forest. And so I go outside, and I was like, in case there are people watching this who aren't in this space necessarily, you can telepathically communicate with I mean, it's really hard with other 3D beings. But you can telepathically communicate with higher dimensional energies just through intention. That's how beings communicate. Anyway, so I go outside and I was like, hello. I think I called them Sasquatch. I was like, hello to the Sasquatch of this land. Would love to connect. Can you come hang out? And immediately it was like, we would love to connect too. And this bat like zoom, flew past my head and I was like, ah! And so I called my 2 other friends to come outside. So my other 2 friends come outside. And I'm still trying to communicate with them. I was like, okay, where are you? And they said like, they were showing me that they were like, some of them were coming closer. Just in the whole forest, they were like coming over this way. So it's not like they were right there yet. But I noticed myself start to get scared because I was like, oh, they're for real coming. And for some reason, I was so excited. And then I was like, I'm getting scared by this. And they said in my mind, they're like, your energy is quite ungrounded. It's not comfortable for us to connect with you right now. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm like scared. And I just, it wasn't like, oh, I'm scared. It's like, sometimes I get in these and I was like just being, a freak. I was ungrounded. And meanwhile, my other friend, so I'm like trying to talk to them, see where they are. My other friend was like asking them to make sound once they were close so that we knew. And then he like asked, and then it was like snap, like a tree branch would break. And there's like no sounds out here. And we were like, oh my God. And I start getting more scared. But logically, I'm like, Kayla, don't be scared. Don't be scared. That's ridiculous. Rather than listening to it, it didn't matter. My body was scared. That is what it was. You know what I mean? And so he kept doing that where he kept saying, okay, like, can you throw a pine cone? And like, something would drop. Like, it was fucking nuts. They'd be like, okay, can you, like, we just kept doing that and kept getting to where I was like, they're right here. And at this point, like, they had tried, I was like, okay, let me channel you and channel like songs. We could dance together, something. And they were trying to say, think of it this way. We are you. We're not separate from you. They were just doing those types of things. And, but it wasn't working. I was like, I am full blown into panic right now. And I don't know why, but it kind of clicked to me. I was like, oh, they had said, because these Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, they were around that initial story I was telling at the lake. And they had said, it just clicked that like, oh, they're helping me to release something right now. So go into the fear, figure out what this is, not figure it out, but allow it to happen. And so I started doing that and I was just breathing and my other friend took over like communicating with them. And she was like, they're saying to tell you, we have you surrounded, which I know sounds silly, but it was because once they understood that, I was like, oh, let's lean into this. Let's release something. They were trying to invoke trigger like past life trauma, which I think a lot of us have of, being invaded, or being trapped, being surrounded in some way. And so as soon as they said that, I was like, ah! And then I just like lost it basically for, I think, 20 plus minutes. And I was screaming and I was crying. I was sobbing. I was like pulling stuff out. It was like light language was coming up, but it was one of the craziest releases I've ever had in my life. And as soon as I could calm down enough, I could sense that it was like they were there it was just all the elementals were there and they were basically just like blasting me with love frequency. And it was like like the aforementioned thing around my heart, like blasting me with that until it broke down enough for me to like let the release out. And it was just one of the craziest experiences of my life, and definitely craziest release of my life. And after, the fear was gone, and I just like, I've never experienced gratitude like that, because it was, I know this might sound silly, but you could sense like everything. By everything, I just mean like oneness was all there. It was like a community that we just couldn't see, but we could feel that it was there. They were all around. The animals of the forest too, even 3D physical animals, they were there too. It was like, it was just, I don't like the nicest thing anyone's done for me. And they were just blasting me with love until I let go, until I released. And then, anyway, that part was substantially amazing. But then we spent like 2 hours, because now my fear was gone. So then we spent 2 hours like playing and having fun. And then we could like connect more. And I was like, okay, you could come a little closer. Right. And we were still doing the thing like make a sound over here, throw a pine cone over here. Here were the other things that ended up happening. When I said you could come like about this close or whatever, I was like, okay, we want to smell you. When I tell you, like when we'd ask that, first of all, the wind would blow. And then we could like smell. It didn't smell great, but you could smell like, oh, this is like a Bigfoot. And when I asked, I was like, how are you, like, oh, you could control the wind, because every time the wind would blow so that we could smell it. And he said, we're not controlling, like we can control the wind because we are the wind. And they were really hammering home this idea of like oneness, of how they're not separate from one another, and how they're a network of not just this Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, but all of the elements and the elementals. And anyway, we were just hanging out with them, dude. And at one point I said, like, can you guys make sound? Do you make sounds verbally? And we believe it ended up being like a little one. And it was just like this, it was just like, it was just like a sound like that. And obviously we could never see them. You could see, my friend could see like outlines of them. I could not. But then at one point I said, okay, you can come all the way close. I feel comfortable now. I said, like, you can touch my hand. There were a couple points, like, again, because you could smell them as they got a lot closer. You could feel that it was behind me. And then one was right here, and it was like probably right up here away from my hand. And then he actually touched it, but it didn't feel like how we feel. It didn't feel quite as physical, but you could tell that it was like connected. But it was, I guess, maybe they're in the 4th dimension. I don't know how that works exactly. That's what it feels like to me, but because that's just time. So I don't know, whatever. I don't know. It was crazy. It was magical. Hang on. There were a couple other things I wanted to talk about. Then we were just like channeling info from them as well. Like, they were trying to help my friend like attune to their energy, because she is working with, like going to be working more with nature and elements and the elementals and stuff. So they were trying to give her basically like an attunement to their frequency. So that was happening. What else was I gonna say? I'm forgetting. I thought of it and I forgot. Oh. So when one of my other friends would say like, okay, can you hit a tree with a stick or can you make a sound? It would happen like right away. And then anytime I did it, it wasn't happening. I was like, what the hell? I was like, they hate me. And they were basically saying, no, it's because you're holding disbelief in your experience, which doesn't allow for the, okay, this was interesting. And I actually haven't really thought about this again. Because the way that that dimension works, it is real. But in order for us to experience it, it's sort of like believing is seeing kind of thing, or in this case, believing is hearing. And because I was holding up like doubt in my field, when I asked for it, I was holding up doubt, it could not be reciprocated. It could not be received. I don't know that that's always necessarily the truth or the case, but what's interesting is that over the couple days that we were there and we connected with them a couple other times, they were very much so trying to educate us on things. And like the second day, they were like, we're not doing like fancy things for you. They were like, feel into the oneness in your heart, bring yourself there to help like raise you up to this. They were very much so trying to like educate and teach. So, but it feels like, I guess what I'm trying to debate in my mind is, because I do think there are circumstances where someone would be in disbelief. Well, no. I think because I was holding doubt in my field, the sound could not be, it could not be like it, because I was the one that asked for it, it could not be reciprocated, if that makes sense. And what's interesting is that it's not like I had disbelief in it, because my friends had done it a million times and it was happening every time. It was like a doubt that I was holding that I don't know, like that they would do it for for me. And because I was believing, oh, they're not going to do it for me, then that's what was happening. Very interesting. But when I tell you that the smell, like I'm, nothing was wrong with the smell. When I tell you this story is undeniably true, I know I'm kind of woo up and like, I guess I'm thinking like, oh, what if friends of mine that aren't in this space watch this or something like that, or family members. When I tell you this is undeniably true, and also because everyone's going to ask, there were no drugs involved in this. It was just a cool freaking experience getting to connect with the elementals in whatever form that may have been. In this case, it just happened to be Bigfoot or Sasquatch. But I guess I'm sharing this because whether you are in this space or not, part of what they were talking about is that like this is going to be happening more and more. We are bridging the gap between frequency to where we can interact in this way. No, we couldn't see them physically, tangibly in the way that I could see you right now. Well, I can't see you, but like, but they were still right there. And so talk to the elements, talk to the forest, see what comes up, like even try communicating telepathically if you don't already do that. Like just try, and always focusing on the sense of feeling first and foremost. The second night when we went out there and we brought another friend back over, they first of all, they were just very much so like they kept saying, please anchor into your heart. Like, please sit in your heart space. Remember that we're all interconnected. Like, remember that we're not separate from you. And I know we hear that a lot. For those of us that are in this space, we hear that a lot, and it's because, like, okay, whatever. But it's said to us a lot because it's true. In remembering that oneness, that interconnectedness, remembering that you're not separate, is what allows for you to break past the limitation that exists, that doesn't allow for you to interact with these beings in the way that we maybe want to. The more that you can release that limitation, release the idea of separation, the illusion of separation, the more that you can literally like become one again with all that is. And so that's just like a big thing of what they were talking about a lot, which is, I'm not one for, cheesy spiritual stuff like that. But when I tell you, it was just it was just magical, like feeling that truth coming from them and being like, this is like, I don't know how to really put words to it. But it was pretty magical. And so if you're ever outside in a forest, if you're anywhere, there's like water spirits here in the spring. Just connect with the energy of nature and see what elementals might be there. Because it's fun. And because who doesn't like a little magic? Well, maybe some people don't like magic. There's no such thing as magic. I've done that before. Uncle Vernon. All right, well, that's my Bigfoot story. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.